because I'm an associate professor and part of my role is not just to teach, but also to do research and service, I feel like the Service Learning Fellowship is like the perfect blend of all of it, because it's embedded in my class. So I'm teaching, it's that like living laboratory, like I mentioned, but I'm also doing service. So I've checked off now teaching and service, but the feedback loop for myself and my students needs to be able to ask the question, is what we're doing making an impact? And so we want to work with our community provider not to bring sort of our research agenda, but to ask them, how do you evaluate your students' growth at the Poder Center? And can we look at, for the kids that have participated in the Adventure Club, if that sort of additive service has made a greater difference in what you're already evaluating. So the staff at the Poder Center, they do sort of at the beginning of every year and midpoint and the end of every year, they have a leadership rubric. It's an observation-based tool that their staff complete based on their observations of the child's growth and development. So we have data from students on those leadership rubrics that were not in our Adventure Club, and then data, observational data for students that were. And we're in the process of comparing some of that data to see if this sort of additive component makes a difference in their positive youth development. So we're sort of looking at that data and analyzing it and hoping to publish it down the road. And again, I feel like there will be more opportunities. That's one method of data collection. We've also talked about down the road potentially, doing interviews with students or focus groups with parents, or even potentially surveying teachers and asking them, do you see a difference in these kids? So I think there's a lot of potential for professors that are Service Learning Fellows to also advance their research agenda by establishing these partnerships in the community.
So my class is a graduate class, and so as a graduate class, research is the call of the day, right? So I personally am not doing research on students or doing research on the process. I have some publishing opportunities that are coming up related to how we're managing this, but we use research in my classroom in this course as the tasks at hand. In other words, when the agency, when the Office of Sustainability designs those projects with me, we're designing research projects. And so it's not about just creating an exhibit or creating a report, it's about creating an analytical product in each case. Sometimes that's GIS, or Geographic Information System based in the Department of Geography. That's one of our tools. Sometimes it's community outreach work in the form of surveying and interviewing. But in each case, each team within the classroom takes on a research agenda, and the project is designed around a research model. So questions and data and methods and analysis and conclusions, so that the students are practicing their research technique at the same time that they're engaging with the community partners.
So my research with service learning is pretty much limited to the andragogy that occurs in the classroom. So obviously we learn something every semester that we do this. One of the things that's been very valuable is us learning that to do service learning, you don't actually have to be physically present with the outside organization or the agency that you're working with. So like I said earlier, the National Volunteer Caregiving Network out of California, I happened to meet the director of that organization at a conference, but the relationship had already been established. So a lot of the research that we're doing right now is learning how to do service learning via distance learning. And so it's kind of humorous. A lot of the students actually are they kind of create obstacles and say, well, they're in a different time zone and they're not available when we are, or we're in class. How do we meet with them? I don't know what they look like, or we're losing communication in email, which are all real world problems, and they're getting that experience right here through this. So they're working through communication through webinar, and they're learning that that's very different. And then of course the outcome, how they deliver their product, their analysis, or their report. So my research is kind of focused on that. It is limited to the classroom, and I've done some presentations for conferences related to that. And I think the faculty really eat it up, because a lot of people assume that service learning has to be, on the ground, face to face, and that's not always the case.